お前はもう死んでいる。何？
Okay guys, as promised, I am now doing a breakdown of my TNT Detonator team comp, as well as explaining the theory crafting behind it, and I will be also covering the future goals for my team. So let's get started. The way this comp works is by combining Katakuri, Queen, and Blackbeard into basically having a detonator composition and essentially nukes the enemy within the first 2 to 4 rounds. The main mechanic that I'm using here is the delayed damage mechanic. You may know this from the Emperor faction. There are a couple of heroes that have this tag where they can apply delayed damage, similar to the bleed effect that you know from the Straw Hats. And it basically works like this. You apply a stack, you wait for 2 turns, and at the end of the second round, it deals 38% of the attack from the cast. This is quite cool. It adds a little bit of extra damage. However, it is very slow. The characters that make use of this mechanic are Luffy New World, Blackbeard New World, and Burgess. Katakuri, on the other hand, is a little bit special. Katakuri has the same mechanic, however, it is on steroids because he has sticky mochi. This is the exact same mechanic, however, they don't deal 30% of his attack, actually 50. And this is really, really strong. It's almost double as effective and as strong as the classic delayed damage. However, it still counts as a delayed damage stack, and this opens up the nice synergy that I have in this team. So basically, it's just delayed damage, but better. What Katakuri does in his first turn is he uses his turn 1 skill. It's basically an AoE attack that deals some physical damage, definitely applies 1 layer of sticky mochi, and if the target has full HP, he has the chance to apply another layer of sticky mochi, as you can see here. So, fun fact, here in the text, you would assume that he can only apply 1 or 2 stacks of sticky mochi. This is actually false. Katakuri can easily apply 6+ stacks if he triggers his physical combo. I have no idea why this is, but I have seen him apply like 8 stacks of mochi, which is super, super strong. So, in conclusion, Katakuri is a core member of this team, and I basically built around him because I got him very early in my free-to-play account. Mochi stacks are absolutely OP. He has an insane physical combo synergy where he can apply 30+ stacks to a team of 6 enemies in the first turn. Imagine that. That's 30 times 50%, so 1500% of his attack that he deals AoE. And he also has this nice bonus where he grants 5% passive dodge chance to his team. So he's basically the one who sets up the TNT in this composition. Then we have Blackbeard New World. He is super squishy, he's not too good by himself. He does deal reliable AoE damage and some DPS because he has a very low cooldown on his turn 1 ability, so he does it in turn 1 and turn 3, where he applies some delayed damage stacks and gives some bit of damage. That's cool, but that's not what we use him. We use Blackbeard New World because of his turn 2 ability. This turn 2 ability, for once, it gives some CC chance, so he kind of inflict the sluggish debuff on the enemy team. However, what's really important is that he can detonate the delayed damage that the enemy team has and deal this damage instantly. So you don't have to wait until the end of turn 2, but it actually gets procced the second that Blackbeard moves in the second turn. And this is insane. So he instantly detonates all the stacks that Katakuri has set up in turn 1. And now we combine the TNT with the detonator, giving a room for a huge explosion. As you can see, like here, 30 times 50% of Katakuri's attack is just from Katakuri alone, 1500 of Katakuri's attack AoE. Insane damage potential. And after we've done this, the enemy is usually quite low, around 50% of their HP. But usually I was lacking some like the finishing touch, the final damage, and this is where Queen gets into it. Well, in his turn 1, he has some AoE and he weakens the enemy by 25%, meaning they receive 25% more damage. He has good survivability, where in his passive he receives a maximum of 10% of his HP. As damage, he also has 25% passive dodge rate, and very important for me, as I'm free to play, he's now in the Grandson shop. Yes, he is more expensive than other characters, but before then, you had no chance and no reliable way of farming these guys' shards. So that's really cool, and this is what pretty much has opened up the possibility of building this team the way I did it. What Queen does is in his second turn, he has this ability where the effect depends on how much health is left on the enemy team. If the enemy has above 50% HP, he deals some percent of his own HP as damage for 3 rounds. This can stack up to 3 times. It's okay as damage. We don't want this though. What we want is the enemy being below 50%, because if that's the case, he basically installs a time bomb that deals 600% of his attack on every enemy afflicted after 2 rounds. And while we're waiting on this, the enemy becomes like confused, as you know from Pokemon, or in this game it's Discord. So the enemy attacks his own teammates. This is super funny to watch, must be super frustrating to play against, and it's just an insane mechanic. So what happens in this composition is basically Katakuri applying his stacks AoE, ideally 30 plus stacks when he triggered his physical combo. Then you go for Blackbeard New World. In his turn 2, he detonates all the stacks. He gets the enemies below 50% HP by combining both of their damage. And then Queen finishes off the enemy. If they're below 50%, pretty much everyone dies in 2 turns. And if they don't, the cycle continues and starts again. So basically what you can imagine is Katakuri sets up the TNT. Blackbeard detonates the TNT, and Queen pretty much just, becomes a psychopathic maniac and kills the enemy, and pretty much forces them to kill their own team. Weaknesses of this comp are that it's very sequence reliant. If your team members, your core team members, are impaired in any way, be it that they're stunned or that they're killed, it's really bad because this combination doesn't work anymore. Meaning CC is the absolute enemy. Taunt, sneer, sight, sluggish, sleeps, everything, like every one of those control effects. So big time. So you want to avoid them, or you want to have a way of cleansing them. And it's also very expensive since it's very heavy on the emperors. It's very hard to build this comp as a free-to-play player. I'm suffering daily while I'm building this team up because I am a free-to-play player. Coming by the emperors is really hard, and since you have 3 characters from the same faction, they pretty much cannibalize um, the heroes from each other. It's really annoying. However, it's very satisfying to play it, and so yeah, it's kind of rewarding. Usually, people choose the Ice Age skill because it deals the most damage and it can inflict sluggish onto the enemy team. It is a really good skill. However, in this case, in my team, I purposefully did not choose this one, but instead I went for the Black World, the Blackbeard skill. Reason being is that eventually I realized that Katakuri has this passive ability where he has his own dodge rate up by 15%, and he gives 5% dodge all allied Emperor crew heroes. So this is really cool. And his second ability is that also increases his own dodge rate by 8% for every stack of delayed damage or stick emoji that is on the attacker, up to 40%. This means his own dodge rate can go up to 55% if everything falls into place. Queen, the other core member of his team, has a passive dodge rate of 25%. And that got me thinking. So, as you may know, the Blackbeard skill increases your team's dodge rate by 10%. Means I get 10% dodge rate from the skill. We get 5% from Katakuri for every emperor on the team. And the goal is to get some like dodge chance cheese team where I have 25 to up to 65% dodge rate on my guy. Queen has a total of 40% passive dodge rate flat. 25% from his passive, 5% from Katakuri's passive, and then another 10% from Blackbeard's skill. And now I am very inclined to also aim for the superior dodge haki or books, where you get another 14%, meaning Katakuri will have a flat dodge rate of 39 to up to 79% dodge rate, and Queen should have 54% dodge rate, meaning it should be super annoying to play against this team. I'm very curious to see how this plays out because I have no idea how their statistic works. And in other games, like there's a cap, and the higher you go with percentages like this, they have diminishing returns. I am very interested to see how this works. If you have any idea, or if you know someone who has this, maybe a whale or someone, type something in the comments. I would be really interested to know about that. So pretty much the team analysis of my main account is this core team. I've talked about them extensively. Right now I'm using one control mage with Ace. Blackbeard is another control mage, so I have a little bit of control in my team. He also slows down the enemy team. Then I have 1 or 2 supports in my lineup. I used to use Law, however, I got so flooded with Aokiji shots that I ended up using him. And my tank options are Law, are Luffy New World, and Jin. So Luffy, I like to use him as my tank in the front because he's a great CC sponge. So if I see the enemy has like a BG, who keeps on stunning my team. I put Luffy in the front, he soaks up the CC, and because of his passive, he then cleanses this CC from himself and can actually inflict some nice damage. He flips buffs, turns them into more delayed damage stacks, so that's really good for the team, but he has no pure tankiness. Jinbei, on the other hand, does not have the synergy with the delayed damage, however, he just brings pure nice tankiness, and another positive on him is that he doesn't instigate more of the food war. He's a straw hat, meaning he doesn't eat up the food that I need for my core members of the Emperor faction. He also gives some good survivability for the team, what Luffy does not do. As my support, I ended up using Aokiji because I basically got flooded with about 15 copies of him. I'm not over exaggerating here. Every pull that I do for Marines or Emperors, I keep getting those shots from him. The game has been really persistent on this. So what I like about him is that he is actually a quite fast unit. In his turn 1, he applies an AoE defense down debuff on the enemy team, meaning I deal a little bit of extra damage to the enemy team. More important is that his turn 2 is an AoE heal, and very important, the attack boost. I would have preferred to have the attack boost in turn 1. That would be something that Marco could do. I don't have him, and he would be Emperor, so I'm really happy to pretty much use him here. The thing that he's lacking is the ability to cleanse debuffs, which is why I really like the Tranquil Haki on him, or the Tranquil book, because that's really, really important that he's able to cleanse those debuffs of my team. The other option is Law. Law has very high survivability, but he's super slow, meaning he doesn't match with the sequence of the team perfect. In his turn 1, he's basically, from moveset wise, he's a beast. Attack boost, sleep, block 1 hit, AoE heal, passive heals every turn. Really, really cool. However, he's quite slow, and there's actually another reason why I don't want to use him super hard. But at first, I'm going to go into the Control Mage. I have Ace, I got him. He's a good character. I just like him. I don't think you have to use him. I just do it because of his passive slowing down the enemy team in the first 2 rounds. The first 2 rounds are crucial with this team. He then reduces speed and attack of the enemy. He can apply sluggish, so it's just really useful. Another option would be the Flamingo, who can discord the enemy, which is quite nice in conjunction with the discord that Queen can apply. He also steals buffs and has passive dodge rate. That is quite nice. However, the reason why I wouldn't like to use Law and Doflamingo if I were to build this team again is that Law Wow would be the perfect, I mean, the absolute perfect addition to this team. Sadly, I don't have him yet. I'm free to play. Law Wow is super expensive, but he has high survivability for the entire team with his passive. Very important and super nice, his turn 1 ability, where he spreads those stacks around like crazy. So if Katakuri goes first, applies his sticky mochi, Law Wano would then take his stacks and spread them around in the team again, meaning there's even more TNT that can be fluid by the Detonator Blackbeard in turn 2. And he also adds this like HP swap, so really cool unit. Sadly, he's very expensive, and I don't have a copy of him yet. Another option would be Sengoku, because of his ability to dispel debuffs in turn 1. So moving into turn 2, my team would be free of debuffs. That's really important. So I would really like him. Sadly, I don't have him. Once I get enough copies of him, I will probably actually swap out my Aokiji and then get the Sengoku through the alpha, where you can basically swap it. So yeah, that's pretty much the thing that I've built with my team. Something that you might add is that as a tank, maybe Burgess would be very helpful in here because he also has the synergy with the delayed damage. However, I'm not convinced of this unit as of right now. Yes, he may be tanky. Yes, he may have the delayed damage. But I think the biggest con is that he also is an Emperor, meaning he will also take up the food, and I don't think he's quite strong enough as a unit in order to justify going for this trade-off. So yeah, that's pretty much the team that I have in mind for my main account. Feel free to let me know if you have any ideas how I can improve this team, if there's anything I haven't thought about, and I hope that this video on theory crafting actually helped you somehow, somewhat. Feel free to let me know in the comments. I'm very open to your feedback and would love to hear your thoughts, your tips over the game. Did this help you? Let me know, and if there's something you would like to cover in the near future, just send me a message or leave a comment.